So all the participants, within a couple of minutes, the second session will start. Please wait here only. Don't leave the platform.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Good evening, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Am I
Good
audible?
afternoon, sir. How are you, sir? Yes, sir.
Very fine. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon, madam. Sorry, I got late by 5 minutes.
No, sir, it's okay.
I'm audible and visible, madam.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
So welcome you all for today's second session. Sudershan sir, Professor Sudershan sir. Dr. Professor Sunita will give you a brief introduction of our today's resource person. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rangeshwar, sir. Sudershan Kuntluru is a professor of finance and accounting at IIM Kozhikode. He has been working with IIM Kozhikode for the last 14 years. Prior to this, he did his postdoctoral research from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. In the past, he also worked as a faculty at NMIMS University, Mumbai for 4 years. At IIM Kozhikode, he held administrative positions like the chairperson of PGP Finance Program, Finance and Accounting Area and Management Development Programs. His research interests include impact of accounting reporting on capital markets, auditor independence, sustainability, disclosures and corporate governance, digital finance and forensic accounting. He has published his research work in leading finance and accounting journals. He holds postdoctoral fellowship from Indian Business School, Hyderabad, and PhD and MCom from Usmania University, Hyderabad. He was also board member of Accounting Standard Board of ICAI, New Delhi. He attended faculty development program organized by Harvard Business School, Boston, USA. Sir, please welcome to the session, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sunita, for kind introduction. And thank you, organizers, for inviting me and giving this opportunity to interact with fellow faculty colleagues and researchers.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. In fact, we always feel it is a opportunity to share because as a teachers and as a researchers, our main job is to learn and share. Okay, So I consider this as an opportunity, both in terms of sharing and learning. Okay, because you are all faculty colleagues. I was told that you are all working in various management institutions and commerce department at universities. So with this note, I wanted to put up my agenda. I have few slides to share. I'll come back to them a little later. The plan for me is when I got this invitation, and I was asked to share my views on a topic called researchable topics in finance and accounting. But I know the participants are from management as a discipline. So I try to, increase the breadth and scope of my topic. From the learning point of view, I try to keep myself in and around of the topic of research or researchable topics in finance and accounting. That's an idea. As the topic goes, this is not something new. In fact, many of you have experience of this. So when I got at this topic, I thought it is more of an experience sharing, and where each one of had our own research journey. Okay, so maybe as a doctoral student, now as a faculty guiding to the students, and secondly on your own as a researcher. Okay, so I feel it is a continuous journey for all of us. I thought of sharing that way some of my own learnings, and I rather seriously look forward to listen your learnings too. Then I'll try to list out a couple of topics which are of can be of interest to many of us. This let me start basically. I decided to talk in 3 dimensions. One is research as a identification process or identification step. When I say identification, research question identification. So that is the number 1. I want to touch upon the one aspect, research identification. Number 2, how to conduct this particular research. Okay, that is the research methodologies, tools and techniques, data availability, etc., etc. The third one is the research scope in terms of the topics and areas. Okay, to just give in a lighter note, this analogy comes to my mind from being an accounting faculty. Particularly if you look at just an analogy I'm trying to connect, particularly if you look at accounting standards or accounting rules or accounting guidelines, we say that each of the accounting standard should reflect or convey 3 aspects. One is the recognize, measure, and disclose. Okay? Recognize, measure, and disclose. Recognize means when to recognize a particular transaction. Number 2, how to measure that particular transaction. Number 3, what to disclose to the users or the decision makers. So that is analogy. But from a learning point of view, I am touching upon the 3 headings. One is the identification of the research questions. Number 2, execution of the research. Number 3, scope for future research, topics for future research. Okay, that makes sense to all of you? That is the plan. Now, coming to the identification of research topic or research question. by being in this academic field or academic teaching field now for almost more than 2 decades, when I reflect on today or when I see today's young researchers or young faculty, so most of our learnings going back to almost 2 decades back, they may be felt like they were no longer required today, or they were no longer relevant for today. The reason I'll try to convince going forward. So research topic searching, if I take you back my own experience of 2 decades back, the identification of research question was most of the time coming from our guides, as a professors who were under whom we worked. They had a wide knowledge of subject and respecting their wisdom. So they used to give us this so-and-so topic of research, you do it. Okay. I know at least some of my friends who started their journey in that way. Very few of them, handful of them, in fact, I am fortunate being in that handful of them to choose my own topic. So I remember I started talking about something called, portfolio management, something like that time. I worked almost for 3 to 4 months. Then I realized that, this topic cannot be further examined because there's no data scope. Then after 4 or 5 months, I have to change my topic and do it. Okay. So the journey is quite interesting. So research question, how to identify the research question is an agenda. If you really look at research question identification process, at least my personal experience is most of the time it can also come from the classroom. I don't know how many of you agree. Okay. Anybody agree for that, or you have your own experience to share? I will share my own experience and my research topic, which I am currently working. So my first step, we are under the module called identification of the research question. Number 1, the classroom is the source or a beginning place for a research question identification. So since we are all faculties, so I'll put a pause for a few seconds. Any of you had such experience where your real research question started from classroom and you carried out and you might have published or in the process of publishing? And any subject, not necessarily finance and accounting. Or do you agree in the first place, teaching in the classroom to the student is one of the sources? There are many sources. One of the sources of identifying the research question. Let me also, yes. So let me also keep my chat box open. Is that Monica says no, and our Dr. Hureen says yes, I agree. That's great. That's great. We can have a different opinion. Absolutely, it's a learning process. Great. I share my own experience, and my proposition is the research questions can be generated from the classroom teaching, the subject what we are teaching. That was my proposition. I'll try to convince you and rather encourage you to look at that aspect if you haven't done. That's just a suggestion. So when we teach in the class, okay, so typically what we, particularly in management discipline, because the advantage of teaching to the or teaching in management institution is your audience most of the time are quite diverse audience. Agree? For example, in case of a typical master's program, like, Master of Commerce or, Master of Science or Master of Arts, whatever. So typically you get a homogeneous crowd, For example, undergraduate in bachelor's in commerce, you get into the undergraduate, post-graduation commerce. But the beauty of the management classroom is, if not, too much heterogeneous, whereas in IIMs we get too much heterogeneity. Whereas in our case, we get a diverse audience, okay? When you keep a diverse audience, you really get different perspectives of the topic what you are discussing. So one of the examples, I'll come to the example, my own example. So we have in finance, in accounting particularly, we have a financial statements topic, okay? And just for the benefit of the audience, in accounting, there is a topic called financial statements. And financial statements are typically a balance sheet and profit and loss account. That's a subject. And when you look at in any real-time company, they publish these financial statements for public or for everyone use. So when you look at this publishing of financial statements like balance sheet and profit and loss account, and there's also a resource for you, look at any real company annual report and look at the table of content, okay? In the table of content, you come across first heading called standalone financial statements. Next one, you get it, consolidated financial statement, okay? So let me also, if possible, I can keep typing on the screen and showing to you so that also gives you the motivation. Let me start sharing the screen of whiteboard. Okay. Hope you're able to see the my whiteboard screen. Okay. I wanted to give an example. So this is basically on the financial statement. Whenever you look at the real-time data, you get to see standalone and consolidated. I'll write it in one more line. Consolidated financial statements. Hope everybody agree with this, particularly those who are coming from accounting, people who are teaching accounting subject. And if somebody is teaching, if I ask you, whenever any assignment comes or evaluation comes, what do you recommend your students to look at? For example, let us say this is a TCS annual report, okay? And you come across standalone and consolidated financial statements. That is a fact. Now, just for the learning sake, if you are asking them to analyze as a student, not only from the evaluation point of view, from a learning point of view, which of the financial statements you recommend them to look at it? Any idea on that? Both are available. Keep a chat box open. Is my question is clear? I know this is a little technical one, particularly accounting faculties may address, but others also can attempt on this. So that's where the learning is. Any advice? Which one you would typically recommend to students, or which one they should use? You can take a wild guess also. In management, we always encourage the student to take a wild guess. Then we'll try to convince how logical this guess is, or how not illogical at all. In the interest of the time, let me tell you. So typically we recommend in the Indian context, standalone financial statement, where standalone financial statements are nothing but a parent company details. Whereas consolidated means parent company and its own associates, joint ventures, and subsidiaries. Okay. So it's like a group. I typically say, A is a parent company financial statement, A plus, X plus Y plus Z. Z is equal to consolidated kind of a thing, where you are presenting the picture of the overall group, including their subsidiaries and associates. So just to cut the long story short, so this research question came to my mind saying that, at the end of the day, accounting information is useful to so many people. All various stakeholders are there. One of the stakeholders is the investors. So when they invest into the stock price of this particular company, or when they invest into this particular company as a owner, what information they look for? So then we started discussing what can be the appropriate research question. Research question is, what do investors react? Or in a plain language, what is the relevance of standalone and consolidated accounting information for a decision making for the investors? So we rather modified that question, saying that what does investors take into account? What does investors look at it? And we come to our title of the research paper, what does investors react to? Standalone versus consolidated. And we did an extensive research topic along with my co-authors from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. We are in almost an advanced stage of submitting to a journal for the publication. So what I'm trying to say, when you keep teaching, when you're interacting with the student, you will try to understand what is data is there and what is the availability and which is the one used to. This is one example. There can be many more. I'll say one or two more also. So what I'm trying to say that step number one, the research questions can possibly come from our day-to-day teaching as well. Maybe in terms of the theory, in terms of the regulations, in terms of the actual practice, etc., etc. So this is the number one point for me. So if you haven't thought through, I strongly recommend you to think in that way. Whenever you're teaching to the subject, so try to connect, what kind of research can be done in that, any subject. So that is the first one. Second one is, which is follow-up on to the first one. When you are teaching to the diverse participants, diverse background of academics and industry experience, you get to have some very interesting thoughts. Okay, some are maybe researchable, not researchable. So my second point is interacting with the diverse participants or interacting with the students. Okay, one is classroom teaching experience. Second one is interacting with them. So one of the simple question I'll tell about, when I am teaching in executive classroom about this financial accounting. So financial accounting was predominantly historical cost one in the past. So I was not getting any response when an executive asks, sir, why financial accounting should be a historical cost, which is of no relevance today. I know my colleague might have said to you relevance and reliability. So what kind of changes can be brought in? So in short, the more you interact, or the interactions will also give some spark in the mind about the possible research questions. That way I'll put a pause. And there I can extend, you talk to your own student, you talk to your alumni students. So please keep in mind, if you are, particularly I was told that many management faculties are sitting from here. And as you know, alumni or who graduated and passed out students are one of the important resource for our research. We strongly recommend you to, connect to your alumni or graduated students, because they have studied under you and in the institute, and they went back and started working in the industry. So second point is interacting with the existing student, interacting with the alumni student, okay, and interacting with the, particularly I'm confining to the students. Why? Because access to these is very easy. Your current students are sitting in the class. Your alumni students who graduated, they are one or the other way can be reached out by you. That is the second point. Third point is basically interacting with the industry. I say observing and interacting with the industry. Please remember, research question comes from observing and interacting with the industry. What do you mean by interacting with the industry? In fact, one more example from my side, I have a doctoral student, PhD student. She is working on sustainability accounting and reporting. So how we got to zero down this topic? This is by observing and interacting with the industry. Many of you agree with me today, the focus is on the sustainability, correct? The focus is on the sustainable developmental goals. The focus is on the triple bottom line. What are the triple bottom line? In fact, I know it's dated now, new things have come up. Anybody can share what do you mean the triple bottom line? PPP. PPP, triple bottom line. That is property, people, planet, and profits. Please remember, planet, people, property. Planet, people, profits, please, profits. Profit means economic resources, and a pupil means the in general organization who are working with the organization, and planet is basically the overall earth and all. So I know you might be not able to figure it out because triple bottom line now became dated. The new concept has come today. Okay, so that is where my student is working. Can somebody guess what is that new concept today? I know sustainability is a bigger word. In that, I'm writing on the screen ESG. I'm sure many of you know the answer. What is this ESG is? What is ESG?
Environmental sustainable goal.
Sustainable. Last one is correction, madam. Correct. Environment. Environment is correct. This is also topic of future research, please. So I'm connecting both. Environment, social and corporate governance. Very good, Dr. Indira. So in fact, the student who is working with me is the topic of research is sustainability reporting and disclosures. But she zeroed down to study about the ESG disclosures by the corporates. And we have interesting questions. Does ESG reporting, what the companies are doing, is in line with the regulators? If I give an example, in India, the capital market regulator called SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India, has come up with a reporting practice called BRSR. BRSR reporting. Business responsibility and sustainability reporting. Please make a note. BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, mandatory for top 1,000 companies from 2023 onwards. Okay. So what we thought, how we can research this question, does this ESG practices are already in place, or are they the introduction of the regulations from a capital market regulator like SEBI, or are we in line of the global today, global warming we talk about, climate risk we talk about, carbon emission we talk about, all this comes under this. So how are we getting these research questions? Heading 1, research questions. Subheading 3, that is the observing and interacting with the industry. Observing and interacting with the industry participants. So observing can be further elaborated. You may say, sir, we don't get it every time chance to interact with the industry leaders. I agree. Then observing, so that is observing the industry on this one. I put it 4th point. 4th point is the reading the day-to-day business, particularly since we are management faculty. I rather say reading the day-to-day business news. Correct? Talking about the day-to-day business news. So this is the 4th one. Okay. First one was the classroom teaching. Second one, interacting with the existing and alumni student. Third one is observing the industry and interacting with the industry leaders or practitioners. 4th one is the reading or updating the day-to-day happening, or reading the news or getting updated with the day-to-day business practices in the news item, whatever the news modem. It may be online news you can read, or print news you can read. Correct? So this also gives you a question of research questions. Let me give an example of by reading the new day-to-day news items. Okay. The example is pertaining to the corporate social responsibility. Example this is. So when you see day-to-day companies are spending this much amount of money under the corporate social responsibility, then as a researcher, you should think, is this money spent is in turn contributing to the society at large? If not, where this amount is invested? Which of the elements are getting developed? Or which of the variables are getting contributed, etc., etc. Okay, so that's about the reading or this one day-to-day newspapers. That is the 4th one. So we can go on talk about. Rather, I come to the 5th one. I think 5th one is definitely closer to your heart, which most of us done at the time of selecting our research question. Yes, I'll pause for a few seconds. I'm just listing down. What we can write in the 5th one, which is a very, very rudimentary or one of the steps in the research process. I write short form. Let me see, it get clicked. What is this? What is this ROL? Any guess? I'm sure every one of you are aware about this. This is the fifth step. Yes, very good. Thank you, Dr. Dayanandan and Dr. Rashmi. So this is basically as they stated, review of literature, we call ROL, and the objective is to identify the research gap based on the existing set of studies. Correct? So this is very basic one. You need to, for that matter, you need to keep reading the research papers and try to identify the future research gaps, etc. I need not elaborate much on this because most of us have gone through this particular process. Okay. So lastly, I'll put it to R2, then I'll close this particular module or this particular sub-content. I'll just repeat for the benefit of this one. So in fact, I'll write here also. One is the classroom teaching. Okay. Number 2, interacting with existing students and old students or alumni students, alumni. Number 3, observing and, when you are looking at this one, observing and interacting with industry professionals. That's the right word. Correct? Then, next I was saying, observing in news or media reports related to the business. There are a lot of political and all will come. Then, which is a very commonly known as a review of literature for a research gap. Couple of my own experience now I'll add to this so that you get a benefit. So this is a very systematized one. A review of literature for identifying the research gaps. The next important one, my own experience I'll write. The second one is the regulations or regulatory environment. This may be no matter whatever the subject is, not necessarily accounting. Regulations is very, very important. Your research questions comes from regulations, the change in regulations. I think I'm sure some of you are aware today, particularly a lot of studies are coming up with a pre and post. Pre-regulation, what was the scenario? Post-regulation, what was the scenario? And they are applying the very interesting econometric models to examine the context. Regulations can be anything. Just one or two examples if I talk about from my discipline. One of the example is in India, the Companies Act 2013. I repeat, in India, Companies Act 2013 is a significant regulation which is introduced, which covers a lot of aspects of a corporates. So earlier we had a Companies Act 1956. Now Companies Act 2013 gets into existence. So one can have a lot of accounting research questions. What was the pre-Companies Act 2013 and how is the post-Companies Act 2013 happening? One more example there. In Companies Act 2013, one of the regulations says, the auditor rotation. That's another example I'm giving. So obviously the research question is, how does the audit quality before the auditor rotated and what is the post-audit rotation? By the way, for the benefit of the class, auditor rotation means in real time, most of the companies had a same auditor for years together, 30 years, 25 years, 40 years. So just to motivate you, what happens if someone who is an auditor basically to examine the, whether books of accounts are prepared as per the law. So it's like more of a policing job, right? So in accounting parlance, we call auditor as a watchdog. Now, assuming if you have a same auditor over the 30 years, will he or she will be doing the same job? That is effective policing. What is the possibility? Possibility of collusion. Possibility of putting hands together. One of the classic example was the Satyam's case, where auditors were fully, indulging or party to the accounting scandal or accounting fraud. What happened? So I'm trying to give an example that the regulations. So now, what is the regulation, please? As per the Companies Act 2013, no company can have an auditor not more than 10 years. So 5 years is one term and one more term of the 5 years. I know some of you know the regulations. If it is an individual auditor, 5 years. If it is an audit firm, they can be 2 years. That is a 10 years max. So the research question is, what is the change of the audit quality or accounting information quality pre and post, right? Last example. As you know, in India, CSR is mandated. Corporate social responsibility spending is mandated in Companies Act 2013. Again, I'm sure some of you know the technicalities of that. What are the technicalities? A company has to spend past 3 years average profits towards the corporate social responsibility. And believe me, this is a very, very unique regulation which is mandating the CSR for all the companies. Nowhere in the world they go such a harsh mandating to across the companies. Okay. So there the question is, how was the CSR spending pre and post? Does CSR has anything with regard to the performance, profits, or does CSR has anything with earnings quality, earnings management, etc., etc.? So the learning is watchful about the regulations or regulatory environment, more precisely, if any changes. Correct? Sorry. Are you getting? So that's the next level of understanding we can have. The last one, we can go on talk in this way, but the last maybe, but not last one. I'll put a pause. Do you think any other means one can do? My next point comes to the point where, as a teacher, you should be good at not only sharing knowledge or teaching, but also you have a patient listening. That's a clue. You should be a patient listener, patience listener, listening with the patience. So that's a clue to write on the 7th point. what is that can be with regard to the research question. And it's very important, please. Any guess? I believe Thursday afternoon, everybody has a meal of lunch at home. I didn't get enough time to enjoy my meal. Okay, so I'm up. So the point I'm trying to ask is, let me type on the screen. That is, attending or participating various dash. Still I'm waiting for the word. Various conferences or workshops or speaker sessions, etc. Correct? So the one of the interesting or rather operational way of learning of research questions is start attending the conferences, workshops, or speaker sessions. If anybody coming and giving a research talk, or if any industry is coming and talking, you may say, sir, what about observing? We can shift it this. That's okay. But attending conferences and participating, attending or participating in various conferences. But from the learning point of view, I may push a step ahead, saying that you may start with attending and participating, and gradually should progress to submitting for the research papers. Correct? That is the one. So, attending or participating the various conferences, workshops, and speaker sessions. Believe me, this is the place where you get to have a interesting group of people presenting and talking about the research. You can keep on hearing and you can share some of the thoughts. Another point I'll talk about. Another one is journal, call for papers, invitations. I think this is very interesting. Again, based on our personal experience. So we have been reading or following or tracking various academic journals for the purpose of our research. So nowadays, if not all, many of the journals are coming for the special issues, or special call for paper invitations. Okay. So journal call for papers invitation or special issues. So look at the topics in those conferences, in those special issues. Predominantly, they are contemporary topics in nature. Okay, so journals and call for papers kind of a thing. And believe me, my experience also, in fact, some of the young researchers like you, they also got a benefited in terms of financial funding, because the moment they have call for papers, the call for papers may be offering some amount of financial aid in terms of travel and etc. So like that, we can go on, list it. I lastly stop by writing others. So I don't want to say that, whatever 1 to 8 I have written the exhaustive list, there can be other possibilities. Right? In addition to the above said. Others could be, any random interaction with anyone, it's a combination of the above, that's okay. So others also can be possible because this journal for invitation for special issue. In fact, I can also suggest you to look at the journal for special theme conferences, where you get to know the very interesting topics. So with this, I'll stop this particular agenda. What is the agenda? Identifying the research questions. And believe me, this is not only confined to finance and accounting. This typically works across the disciplines. And I take this as an opportunity because we do follow, in case of finance and accounting, this particular options or a protocol, etc., to identify the proper research question. Good. Any questions at this stage before I move on further to my next agenda? Agenda 1 is identifying the research questions. Any questions, any thoughts before we move to the next agenda? Any thoughts? No problem. Welcome. Sometime I may learn from your questions, okay? Great. If anything new also you come across, please share us, because as I said, this cannot be confined to one person or one place capabilities. Today we are living at networking economy. Okay, so where we do get research ideas and research collaborators from multiple authors. So that's what I was talking about. Any research new idea also is welcome. Then I'll come to the next agenda. Second agenda is how to conduct the research. I know you might have a specialized sessions on research methodology and all, but I'm not going in those technical details. My discussion is within the ambit of my topic, researchable topics in finance and accounting. One is identification, measurement, and disclosure. How to identify the research execution plan. Okay. So that's the second one. Now, please tell me, for the execution of a research question, what is the prerequisite? I'm writing my Roman 2 agenda, that is execution of research question. So my simple question is, for the execution of research question, what is the prerequisite? What is the prerequisite? Okay, tell me. What is the prerequisite? This you should be answering you. This is not a tough question. What is the prerequisite, please? Research gap, Venu, that's right, Dr. Venu. So research gap is identified. That's what we said, gathering the relevant data. Very good. The next important one is the data, the research data. Now we all know the research data can be dash, can be primary or secondary data, correct? Primary or secondary data. So typically primary data, which is called, how do you collect the primary data, or what is that called, primary data one? Or one can, when one can say it's a primary data based research. When does the primary research comes into picture? Any guess? Or what is that called? I think some of you might have already done this primary research, primary database research. Very good. I think Dr. Sunita is very right. So definitely survey-based one, you all aware. In fact, let me share my own experience out here. Initially, I was not actively doing the survey-based data, but I learned many of the university doctoral students are nowadays, they do one chapter on survey and one more chapter on secondary data also. The thesis is always written saying that, your research should be based on the primary and secondary data. So when it comes to the primary data, I know they do the survey-based research, okay? So survey-based research is one, and I'm sure you're aware, in today there are a good number of platforms available for conducting the survey for you. One example is the Qualtrics. Qualtrics is the data. Qualtrics, yeah. Qualtrics is the one, and other one is the Survey Monkey, something I was told. But we were using the Qualtrics licensed version. So let me share my research experience. So we published recently a research paper where the research question was, research question has come from the regulatory changes. Again, as you know, in India, RBI is introduced some time back something called CBDC. CBDC. Some of you are aware, CBDC. What is that? CBDC? This is introduced by the Reserve Bank of India. CBDC means Central Bank Digital Currency. Central Bank Digital Currency, which is in line with your, people talk about the cryptocurrency and etc. Bitcoins and all those stuff. But Reserve Bank of India has come up with the CBDC. It's called stable coins. So our question was, in fact, if you really look at the CBDC as a topic, so typically Reserve Bank of India has introduced retail CBDC and wholesale CBDC, where you are actually exchanging the currency in a digital format. Okay. So for example, currently every one of us gets our own salary. So our bank gets credited. Now I can take out this money from the bank, withdraw from the bank, and I can keep spending the cash currency. You all agree? But COVID taught us is a big lesson. I'm very happy to see in India, this has progressed in a big way. That is the alternative payment mechanism like Bharat Pay, Google Pay, etc., where I need not take my currency from out. Now, the next level of development is the CBDC, is the stable coin. So you need not have to get the salary. You just simply issued a CBDC coupons, and you can directly using them for the making a payment. So in principle, the CBDC claims that you need not have a banker in between. The Reserve Bank of India directly issue the CBDCs, and they can be allotted to you, and they can use as your own, wallets or any payments. It's a long way to go. We have to, you can more think about it. Yes, central bank digital currency. And what we did in our research is we were trying to inquire what are the salient features they were looking for this CBDC paper. So we conducted a survey among the executive participants. This paper is published in Journal of Economic Letters, where we said that, the users typically look for the security and transparency and customer support. Right? So like that, the primary data, survey-based data are still going on, but there are definitely platforms. I don't use the word, I don't say platform here. Rather, it's a electronic survey tool that is called Qualtrics or Monkey Survey, electronic survey tool. And nowadays, most of the doctoral students do send in the Google form also, to fill the surveys, etc., etc. So that is a ongoing problem. Second one is secondary based data, secondary data. So obviously secondary data means there is a readily available data which can be used for econometric analysis purpose. So the simple question is, do we have adequate, consistent, and a reliable secondary data in place? I'll repeat, adequate, consistent, and a reliable accounting data or reliable secondary data to conduct the research. So definitely that's one of the requirement. If you have, you can comfortably go ahead. So today we use a lot of databases. Particularly, I share experience of the domain where I come from. We have a databases called, some of you might have already heard about databases called CMI Prof, Center for Monitoring and Economy, CMI Prof database. Prof database, or we have a proprietary secondary database called Bloomberg database, Thomson Reuters database, Morningstar database, Capital IQ database. So to name a few. So the databases should be in place, and the databases should have this data to be collected, downloadable. Sometime, very interesting one. One is the survey-based data. Second one is the readily downloadable data from these data proprietary databases. The last one, I don't know how many of you did this. I think I really want some response on this question. Did anybody did studied on this hand-picked or hand-collected data? Please remember, this is different from the survey-based data. Survey-based data is not hand-collected or hand-picked data. That's basically data collection based on the respondents. So I want to really pause here, hand-picked or hand-collected data. I'll give my own example. I know some of you may not looked at. The beauty here is the data is there, but that not in a downloadable manner, and that is in a more narrative manner, where you handpick or hand-collected data. And let me share with you, today most of the journals are encouraging for this kind of a hand-picked or hand-collected data. I'll share my own example. Again, the doctoral students, what I'm talking about. So in case of India, the regulators are required to disclose all the key skills of their board members. So in annual report, they disclose the board members, their age, their skill set, etc., which are not currently captured by the databases. They may happen down the line, but currently they are not. So you have to manually handpick and collect the data. And sometimes you have to create your own index, let us say. So you have to collect the handpicked data. Okay. So handpicked data is a little time taking, but once you collect the data, the analysis and results will be very useful. Okay. So one example I was sharing in this case was the director's related skills variable in this example. Okay. So like that, the data is the key. And lastly, on data part, I'll tell one more thing. I'll go to the next one. We just now said that for conducting the econometric analysis, you need a reliable, consistent, and the reliable, consistent, and continued data. Please remember, reliable, consistent, continued data means the data is archival data is for last 5 years or 10 years longer the data. But when you particularly look at the finance and accounting studies, our data is always very limited and scarce. So for some of the years, you may come across something called missing data. Now, just to give you the learning perspective, if you have collected data for, let us say, 50,000 odd companies over the last 10 years, it's a huge data set. So in this example, you can very much, exercise your luxury called, you can drop the variables or companies for which the data is not there. What if I'm doing a research where my sample itself is, let us say, 100 companies, and the period of study is, let us say, last 5 years. And any one of the key variables are missing for 1 or 2 years in this last 10 years, hypothetically. As per our discussion, I have to drop those companies. But if I drop, I'll be losing significant amount of sample. So what is the answer? So there, good amount, I don't say big way, that good amount of research support has come by way of missing data analytics. In fact, there are people who did PhD or research, say that how to impute the data. So missing data basically focus on imputing the data in missing, right? So I don't know any one of you had used this, particularly operations students, do heavily on what are the missing data techniques and tools. So one of the, then you may say, sir, what are those tools and techniques? So one of the basic one is, you can typically, mean imputation models, they're called. Mean imputation models. Where, for example, in a series of 1 to 10, you do not have a data for 2 years. Typically, you are allowed to do median or a mean of the previous 2 years as a data. You may say, sir, why we this need to do? Because when your sample is less, your variables are this. Then you may say, sir, can we just use this imputation model missing data for any amount of data we don't have? No, please cautious. Any question here? You cannot do that. Okay. So then, sir, where can be done? There's a good amount of missing data literature is there, but typically when you are missing, significant variables for a very short period. So this can be understood. So my suggestion is look at the missing data tools and techniques literature. It talks about very interestingly. So this is about the data part. I pause. Next one is the methodology, econometric parts. I know in other sessions they might be dealing in a greater way, so I'll not do much in detail. But my only simple suggestion is apply the appropriate econometric model. I think that's good enough. Correct? So once you have a data in place, apply the appropriate econometric model. I know many other sessions you might be introduced what are the research methodology. Research methodology in terms of the, is it a regressions? And then in that case, do you do, OLS regression, or do you do, probit or 2-bit regression? So if at all I talk about, OLS regression or probit or 2-bit regression. I know some of you already know the answer to this one. So when do we use this OLS regression rather than probit or 2-bit? Or at least when one can use this probit or 2-bit kind of regression methodology? Any clue? The time we do this particular usage. Any answer? Probit or 2-bit? Probit or 2-bit regressions? I think some of our statistic faculty can tell us if they're expert in that, right? Particularly when you are dependent variable, that is left-hand side variable is the binary variable, correct? Yes or no, or dummy variable, use the probit or 2-bit regression. In other cases, you use the normal OLS regression. So like that, I can go on, talk about, but research methodology is a very specialized subject. And my only answer is apply the appropriate research methodology. Next suggestion is, today we have various research tools. So we should use, I don't know, we start with the SPSS, SPSS, then we have Stata, we have eViews. Nowadays, people are using R software, so etc., etc. So I leave it to you, whichever is at your access, you can use it. But definitely, these econometric softwares are equipped with all kind of data cleaning and permutation combinations. You can do everything. And particularly, this is very, not only particularly, in general also, in all the cases, they are very much helpful. There also I will not go into greater detail. So this is about my second module called measurement, or how to execute this research. Now I'll come to my last module. What did I say? 3 modules I cover. One is the how to generate the research questions. Number 2, how to execute this research. Number 3, some of the scope or possibility of future research. So I put it down as a future research. Or topics for the future research. That may be the more precise one, correct? Topics for future research. I think at least this may be exciting for everyone. Okay, we'll look at what are the future research topics. Before I start writing on the screen or sharing some thoughts on that, whatever I say or present, they may not be exhaustive research topic. There can be still many can be added. So whatever I present, they will be more of a indicative in nature. It's not an exhaustive list. It's an indicative research, indicative in nature. So one of the thing, in fact, let me start sharing the screen. From where do we get? I'll stop this. I was talking to recently one of the foreign delegates, some of the foreign delegates. So I put up all the pieces there. Okay. So, yes. Hope you're able to see my PPT. I'll make the full screen. Yes. We're in the third module, please. We are talking about the possible research. In fact, one may actually have experienced some of them in my first heading. What is the research question, identifying the research question process. So we are here listing down some of the topics, right? So again, the topic is finance and accounting. Read on this. And if you really tell me what is the topic coming from this particular news item, so that we can list down the specific topic. You also keep my chat box open. What is the topic basically in this case is? The topic is very simple. That is the digital evolution in the accounting and finance domain. So what he says, 82% of the CFOs are driving digital transformation. The topic is the digital transformation. Please write down this digital transformation is a topic, not only confined to finance and accounting, but also economics, but also, other disciplines. So one can have a lot of interesting questions. The digital transformation. Does digital transformation improve the efficiency of the impact of the performance of the organizations? Okay. And does it really, helping in the controlling of accounting frauds or etc. Or you see, I don't know, some of you might be aware about, there is a literature called D5 that is called digital finance. So digital finance is basically in terms of the core banking facilities and your all cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, or specifically application of your blockchain, AI, ML, natural language processing, NLP, natural language processing tools, deep learning, etc., etc. So let me give a few examples. Okay, I was just writing down. Yeah, here is the one, please. Hope you are able to see on the screen where it says blockchain-based triple entry accounting. Some of the participants who teach accounting, they know that currently we are talking about double entry bookkeeping. But the future research is, the first one is the digitization. Second one is application of blockchain, which is called triple entry bookkeeping. And some of you are aware, what is the main unique characteristics of the blockchain? The blockchain is immutability. It cannot be changed. So once you have a triple entry bookkeeping where blockchain comes into the picture, then the probability of errors and omissions or fraudulent accounting practices almost can be controlled. So that's the idea. You can read this one. Second one, AI and the accounting profession. Today buzzwords are AI, ML, etc. So the research questions are how these AI MLs are getting into both accounting and finance. For example, we use at least one of the research project we tried was the RPA, that is robotic process automation. Robotic process automation. So where how the routine, mundane account activities can be mechanized, robotic process automation, RPA, and how AI ML can be integrated with the decision making, particularly the auditing domain, please. And nowadays, bankers are using this loan processing application and all. They are based on this AI ML. So there can be many more done. And one more topic I wanted to say, this one. So this is what I was trying to say. Recently, I published a paper, India's CBDC for digital public infrastructure, in Economics Letters. Okay. So I can go on, share a couple of more topics. Before I go, in fact, I want to put a pause and take some of your questions, because answering your questions is the most important. I can go on, add some more content. I'll do that. Any questions? Any clarification questions in terms of the research writing, research publication? Go ahead.
Most of the times nowadays we are using Google Forms for research data collection, but due to various cyber crimes or IT-related issues, people are not responding to our Google Forms, even including me. Even sometimes when I get a link from unknown person, I don't respond because of
I
my
agree.
own personal data security. How to overcome this? Is there any way of doing this?
True. I think very
Because now
relevant.
is the only option online only we can get the data because it's more relevant and more fast and more authentic. But getting only acquaintances, we are getting data from acquaintances only. After sending link.
I fully, yeah. Thank you. In fact, that's very relevant, Dr. Bhupal. So I only provide an answer saying that I also do get, I agree with you, but a progress in this direction can be, so I told you the Qualtrics. I don't know about the payment terms, but there is a Survey Monkey, there is a website. So one can actually use this platform to connect to the resource. That's one, which is a top management related issues. Qualtrics and Survey Monkey, my colleagues use. I use the Qualtrics. Second one is what I saw, Dr. Bhupal. So when it gets an anonymous email, definitely I also try to not to respond. So some of the colleagues, somebody saying, where you get introduced yourself and you say I'm so and so, then start sending. So that adding of information may help. But in real time, Dr. Bhupal, people are moving to more, for example, the reviewers also, editors of the paper, journals also asking, if you do Google form, what is the reliability? So when they quote in the research paper, the one which I showed, we have shown saying that we have used the Qualtrics so-and-so version for collecting the data. So the reliability part is taken. So to be very frank, I say the progress is toward that direction.
Correct. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a very practical, relevant question. I know. Any other thoughts? Any ideas? You can also teach, by the way. I'm only just wanted to share my views.
But what we observe, sir, there is a vast gap between the industry requirements and faculties, rather formal education. In fact, the collaboration has to happen from industry, between industry and education institutions. So then only the real requirements can be, rather we can make ready-made available students to take up the jobs as soon as they come out of the institutions.
One answer on that, Dr. Bhupal, you have rightly said. So in fact, at an institution level, what we should do as a teacher, what we should do is, I had a tremendous experience in, definitely students are our first hand of contact. So try to identify your alumni students and as a part of learning process, just to interact with them. So we call that in the research process contact person. Once you get a contact, you try to understand, try to do some case studies. Then if it is scalable, take it to the working paper. Then it's scalable, take it to the research paper kind of a thing. So I agree. In fact, the claps can happen by putting two hands together. So one hand, it will not bend. So both industry and academia should come forward. But from our side, we can do this steps. And from the industry side, today I see, particularly under the CSR or whatever, they are also encouraging the researchers to look at their at least some of the questions, whereas we are doing in a big way this one at our end. But definitely our past students are of our primary contacts.
Thank you so much, sir. I have taken more time.
Yeah. So lastly, in fact, I'll try to summarize, because today the research has to be in a more, at the end of the research is in a publishable manner. So whatever research you are doing, it should be published in whatever the rating of the journal may be. Okay. So one advice is, once you start your research or in the middle of research, identify the journal whom you want to target, so that you will get motivation and also you reach our desired target, what you intend. So that one piece of advice based on experience. If not, first identify the journal, start working on, or once you started the research, figure out which are the journals it can go and start working on. That is first one. Second one is, whenever some review of papers request comes from the journal, my personal experience is do accept and review for them, because as a reviewer, you not only get to know the new topic, new paper, but also you get to learn. So whenever you get a review request, no matter, again, Dr. Bhupal say, which journal, how reliable, we don't know. But without giving much our personal credentials, if that asking as a professional service, you can do that one. That's the second one. And the third one is it's an ongoing. Any of the students who, not only doctoral students, PhD students, but all our master students, if anybody wants to do some extra work done in the classroom, my personal suggestion is just to grab that opportunity to encourage them. It has a mutual benefit. Okay. So that's about one. Otherwise, we can go on, talk more and more in detail. Anytime off the line also, I'm happy to get connected. Hope you're able to got the big picture about the topic what we're discussing.
Yes, sir. So holistically, we could get it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are in the interest of the time. You want me to share some more thoughts? How are we doing in the timelines, Dr. Smita?
What a pleasure.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I extend my sincere gratitude to our esteemed resource person, Professor K. Sudershan Garu, for accepting our invitation today and for enlightening us on the topic researchable areas in accounting and finance. Thank you very much, sir, for your elaborate explanation regarding the topic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Given a time, I thought of giving you the macro picture, and it's a long way to learn. So wish you all the best, and best wishes in your research agenda and career. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll stop here.
Sir. sir.
We are done, Dr. Rangeshwar Rao. Shall I leave this one?
Yeah, sir. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yes,
much. Thank you for everyone.
Dear participants, there's a small announcement regarding to also on the special request of some of the participants. We are going to arrange 2 sessions tomorrow, and that is from 2 to 3:30 and 3:30 to 5, as usual, how it was done today. So please kindly attend the sessions. We are expecting more strength. Hello?
Yeah,
Okay.
got it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sir, today the strength is a little bit less.
Yes.
And tomorrow we are expecting more from 2 o'clock on 2 o'clock onwards.
Okay.
Kindly please
Sure, sure.
support us.
మా తెలుగు మిస్ ఏమైనా చెప్పారా క్వశ్చన్స్ వచ్చింది చెప్పుగా ఉంటే ఏం చేసేది
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, please share the feedback link.